Hare Krishna. Am I audible?
Yes, Prabhu. If no one,
Okay.
then I can speak. I can read. Sanya Mataji.
Sanya Mataji. Okay. Yes. Sanya Mataji, if you could start with the chapter 10, the first one, volume 10, chapter 1, Coming Home. And yeah, the screen is also shared. So, yeah, over to you, Mataji.
During the 1970s, I would get culture shock. Sorry, Volume 10, Chapter 1, Coming Home by. Uh, During the 1970s, I would get culture shocks whenever I went to India. The crowded cities, the heat, the food, the occasional sickness, and the austerities of local travel would painfully remind me sorry, would painfully remind me that I was a stranger in a foreign land. But as the years passed, my visits became more frequent and I began to feel at home there, especially in places like Vrindavan and Mayapur, where the Lord once performed his transcendental pastimes. But this year, it was leaving India and going to Hong Kong that gave me a culture shock. By modern thinking, I should feel at home in Hong Kong. It is as Western a city as New York, London, or Paris. But I felt out of place before I even left the airport. As Sri Prahlada and I passed through the glimmering halls of immigration and customs, I turned to him. There's only one reason to live Vrindavan, I said. What's that? He said. To share one's good fortune with others, I said. I felt uncomfortable until the day when we went on Harinam with 50 Chinese devotees. As soon as Sri Prahlada began leading Kirtan with his accordion, I felt that I was back in Vrindavan. I'm sorry, can someone else continue reading? Hare Krishna.
Would anyone like to volunteer? Yes, Namdas Prabhu. Go ahead. Next one you can read.
You can say that this one, as Sri Prahladan passed.
Yes.
I felt uncomfortable until the next day when we went to Harinam with 50 Chinese devotees. As soon as Sri Prahlad began leading the Kirtana with his accordion, I felt I was back in Vrindavan. I waved to him over the sound of the kartals and mridangas. Hey, I shouted. It's like we never left the dham. But when we went back to our hotel, the modes of nature set in again. I lit some incense and candles on my altar and sat down to chant japa. That's better, I thought. Still, it was odd. I had always been able to adjust quickly when coming back from India. I wondered if the problem this time was that the 2 months of parikrama in Vrindavan had been so deep and enriching that the contrast of Hong Kong was too intense. Several days later, we left for the Philippines. On the flight, I picked up a newspaper and read about a report by the US National Intelligence Council. The report, a year in the making, was meant to brief the incoming administration of the new president, Barack Obama. It was entitled Global Trends 2025, A Transformed World, and it gave dire predictions. The use of nuclear weapons will grow increasingly by 2025, forecasting a tense, unstable world shadowed by war. The world of the near future will be subject to an increased likelihood of conflict over scarce resources, including food and water, and will be haunted by the persistence of rogue states and terrorist groups with greater access to nuclear weapons. Widening gaps in birth rates and wealth to poverty ratios and the uneven impact of climate change would further exacerbate tensions. I learned, I leaned back and thought about what I had just read. All this will make the challenge of staying Krishna conscious in the West even greater, I said to myself. That evening, we went to on Harinam to Manila with more than 100 devotees. I sweated in the humidity as we chanted past ramshackle buildings near the university. The streets were full of vendors, and there were crowds every inch of the way. Street children chanted and danced with us through the squalor. Watch your shoulder bag, said a Filipino devotee as we stopped at an intersection. These little street urchins will rob you blind. The Harinam was blissful as always. But as soon as it ended, I found myself longing for the pure and sanctified atmosphere of the holy dham, thousands of miles away. I scolded myself. This is not good, I thought. I have to make the change. The purpose of going to the dham is to come back and preach in places like this. I revealed my mind to Sri Prahlad. I am still yearning to be home in Vrindavan, I said. Sri Prahlad smiled and quoted Advaitacharya's words to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Acharya kahe tumi yahan sei Vrindavana. Wherever you are, my lord, that is Vrindavan. After a week in Manila, we flew to Sydney, where we joined 26 devotees from my European summer program. We were starting a 2 month festival tour around Australia, and our first program would be in Terrigal, a small town outside Sydney. But we were busy practicing and did not have much time for Harinam. So I went to see Prata, Pratapanadas, our sponsor and festival organizer. I'm in anxiety, I told him. We'll only have time for one Harinam to advertise the event. We may not get many people. Don't worry, he said. We've put up lots of posters and given out flyers in the markets. The town is buzzing. The day before the program, something terrible happened in India. I watched in shock on the internet, along with many other people around the world, as a small group of Muslim terrorists attacked prominent locations in Mumbai, India's financial capital. The next afternoon, I heard more about the horror of the attack. An email came from Ashok Tiwari, an aspiring disciple in Mumbai. He is the station master for Victoria Terminus, one of the places the terrorists hit. Ashok told how he was just going to bed the night before when his terrified duty manager called him from the station and said that two men with AK-47s were killing people. Ashok rushed to the station several kilometers from his home to find policemen in a shootout with the terrorists, who then somehow disappeared into the night. He helped the police put the injured into taxis and cars to go to the hospital. The worst part was discovering five of his staff among the 50 dead, lying in pools of blood on the station floor. As we drove to the program, I remembered the US report that the near future terrorists would step up their activity. The near future always comes too soon, I said softly as we arrived in Terrigal. Although the tragedy was thousands of miles away, it was a stark reminder of life in the material world and the need for preaching Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada left Vrindavan for that purpose alone, I said to myself, as the doors to the hall opened and people began pouring in. I just wish I could focus more on giving these people the spiritual understanding they seek. Just at that moment, a well dressed man came up to me. Excuse me, he said, are you Indradyumna Swami? I was surprised that a guest would know my name. Well, yes, sir, I said. I am Indradyumna Swami. Will you be speaking tonight? Yes, I will, I said. In just a few minutes, I've come for your talk. Have you? I said, somewhat embarrassed. Well, s- said the man, I attended one of your festivals in the Sydney area last year, and the lecture you gave proved a turning point in my life. Whatever I know, I've learned from my spiritual master, I said. Actually, I just stumbled in off the street that evening, he said. I was a homeless person. The stress of life had made me an alcoholic. I lost my well paying job and my wife kicked me out of our home. For 2 years, I wandered around Sydney getting free meals at food kitchens or eating out of garbage cans. Whatever money I'd get from begging would immediately go on wine. A devotee interrupted us. Guru Maharaj, excuse me, he said urgently. There are 900 people here, one of the biggest crowds we've ever had. You're on in 10 minutes. I hardly heard him as I focused on the man in front of me. Then, last year I passed by a hall in Newtown. The man continued. There was a poster outside advertising your event, and it mentioned a free feast. I tried to arrange my dirty clothes and hair so as to look presentable and walked in. It was dark inside except for the stage, and you were just beginning your talk. I didn't see anything to eat, so I just sat in a chair to listen. I didn't understand much, but I did hear you explain what you called the four regulative principles. No meat eating, no intoxicants, no illicit sex, and no gambling. Somehow your words entered my heart and changed me. I left immediately after you finished, and as I walked down the street, I decided right then and there to follow those rules. Can you believe that from that day I've never touched a drop of liquor? I cleaned up my act. And to make a long story short, my wife took me in again and I even got my job back. What a wonderful story, I exclaimed. And that's not the end of it, he said. I've always wondered where I could meet you people again. Then 6 months ago, one of your members approached me in the street with a book, the Bhagavad Gita. I remembered it because you had spoken about it in your talk. I bought it and began reading it that night. The addresses of your centers in Sydney were inside. So the next day, I went to one and heard another talk. The man said that along with the four principles, one should chant the Hare Krishna mantra. So I bought a set of beads. For the past few months, I have been chanting 16 rounds a day. That's amazing, I said. I glanced towards the stage to see what point the program had reached, and my wife and I are planning to a trip to India next year to Vrindavan. What? I said. You want to go to Vrindavan? He smiled. Yes, he said. Have you been there? Yes, I have, I said softly, many times. I, s- I so much want to go there, he said. Just then, another devotee interrupted us. Maharaj, he said, you're on. I hesitated for a moment, then I turned to the man. Thank you for sharing your story with me, I said. It is I who must thank you, he said. We can speak afterwards, I said as I turned to leave. No need, he said. I'll be leaving as soon as you're done. I'm hoping that by hearing your talk, I'll become even more inspired to chant the holy names. I walked onto the stage and sat down to give my lecture. I looked over the large crowd waiting for my talk. Then I saw the gentleman I'd spoken to sitting in the front row. How many others will be there? How many others will be like him? I thought. How many others will take the mercy of Lord Chaitanya tonight? Just the thought made my heart start pounding. The devotee, adjusting the microphone, could sense my excitement. He leaned over next to my ear. Maharaj, he whispered, is everything all right? Yes, I said, I'm fine. Everything is fine. Then I remembered the words of Advaita Acharya, wherever you are, my lord, that is Vrindavan. I felt a smile come over my face. I'm fine, I said. It's good to be home again. Note, on November 29, 1971, the chairman of the Vrindavan municipality, its members and secretaries, and the citizens of Vrindavan Dham offered the following words of praise to Srila Prabhupada. O great soul, today we, the inhabitants of Vrindavan, known as Brajbasis, all combined offer our humble welcome to your holiness in this holy place of Vrindavan, and in doing so, feel very proud. For many years, you stayed at the Radha Damodar temple and worshipped Her Majesty Srimati Radharani in a meditative mood. And thus, you have you now have the transcendental vision to deliver the entire world. As proof of your perfection, we can see these foreign disciples before us, and we feel very proud to see how you have transformed them. We take it for granted that you are one of us in Vrindavan. We are sure that wherever you travel, you must carry with you the impression of Sri Vrindavan Dham, the culture, religion, philosophy, and transcendental existence of Sri Vrindavan Dham travel with you. Though the great message your holiness carries, all through the great message your holiness carries, all the people of the world are now becoming very intimately related with Vrindavan Dham. We are certainly sure that through your preaching alone, the transcendental message of Vrindavan will spread all over the world. Hare Krishna.
Jai Ho. Thank you so much, Namaras Prabhu and Sanya Mataji, for reading that wonderful chapter. And I'm sorry, I just got a call in the between. Have we completed the second chapter as well? Or was this the ending of the first chapter
No,
only?
no, 10th volume, like first chapter. Yeah, Prabhu.
Okay, so can we continue the second chapter and then maybe we can share realizations and discuss? Yeah.
Government Mataji, what to read? Graveyard.
Sure, Prajit. Thank you. Volume 8, Chapter 13. Just Wander. By the time our Parikrama group of 250 devotees arrived in Jagannath Puri, there was only 1 week left of the auspicious month of Kartika. We had spent the first 3 weeks visiting holy places in Vrindavan and Mayapura. It had been intense traveling in India with so many devotees. Facilities were not always the best, and large crowds in the holy places had made it difficult to move around. Nevertheless, we had enjoyed it immensely. As we had spent many days hearing the Lord's pastimes and having extended bhajans in each and every sacred place. All of us were eager to visit Jagannath Puri as it was one of the holiest places in India and being on the shore of Indian Ocean, a very relaxing place. Upon arriving, a devotee asked shyly if he could swim in the sea. Oh yes, I replied. Bathing in the bathing in this ocean is a transcendental experience. Before placing the great saint Haridas Thakur in Samadhi, Lord Chaitanya bathed him in these waters. हरिदासे समुद्र जले स्नान करेला प्रभु कहे समुद्रे महातीर्थ हरेला. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu bathed the body of Haridas Thakur in the sea and then declared, from this day on, the sea has become a great pilgrimage site. Chaitanya Chaitamrit, Antelila 11.64. The day after our arrival, I spoke to our guide, Madhvanand Das, a disciple of Gaur Govind Maharaj. Let's go on parikrama early in the morning, I said, so we can see as many holy places as possible before it gets too hot. Where would where would you like to go in particular? He asked. I thought for a moment. It's just wander around. Sorry, let's just wander around, I said. Traveling in auto rickshaws, we arrived at a temple unknown to most ISKCON devotees. This is the temple of Radha Kanta, said Madhvananda. The deity here is one of six originally installed by the great saint Srila Narottam Das Thakur at the first Gaur Purnima festival in Bengal 400 years ago. I had visited the temple years ago in a search for those famous deities, but the rest of the devotees were unaware of its existence. When we entered, we all paid our obeisances and went forward to the altar to take darshan of the deity. As we stood before the deity, I spoke to the devotees. This beautiful deity of Radha Kanta, the deity of Rajamohan in Vrindavan, and a deity of Lord Chaitanya in Bengal are the only deities I have been able to trace out of the original six installed by Narottam Das Thakur. I have been searching for almost 20 years. As we sat down to have bhajan, one of the local priests, who had overheard me, came and began whispering in my ear. The chief priest here, who oversees the worship of Radhakanta, may be able to tell you where the other three deities are, he said. He's an old sadhu in his 80s and very learned in the Vaishnava tradition. Please, I said excitedly, can you arrange for me to meet him? Let me see, said the priest. As we began the bhajan, I looked at Radhakanta he would and prayed he would reveal where the other deities were being worshipped. 20 minutes later, as we continued to chant, the priest returned. Maharaj has agreed to meet you in 10 minutes, he said. He pointed to a small room near the altar. Just over there, he said. A few minutes later, I moved quickly towards the room. 15 or 20 devotees followed me. Suddenly, the old sadhu appeared at the door. He was a rather large man with a serious expression, wearing only a loincloth. He saw that we would not all fit in his room. So he asked for a chair and sat down with us. We bowed and offered our respect. Maharaj, I said, we are all devout followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and thus his devotee, Sri Narottam Das Thakur, is very near to our hearts. We wanted to thank you and your disciples for taking such nice care of his deities, Radhakanta. He looked at us curiously, as as if he had never seen Western devotees before. What is it that you admire in Sri Thakur Mahasya Narottam Das Thakur? He said. His deep devotion to the Lord, I replied, as expression in his works Prema Bhakti Chandrika and Prarthana, and the fact that he was a stalwart preacher of the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The old sadhu smiled and nodded his head in approval. We are doing our best to take care of Radhakanta, he said. The important thing is devotion. Some facility is here, but it means nothing unless we offer it in devotion. And there is wonderful pastime that took place here, he continued with a smile. The devotees moved in closer. 500 years ago, Lord Nityananda visited this very place, which was only jungle at the time. He was joined by a group of children, and they had a wonderful kirtan that went on for many hours. Later, when Lord Chaitanya came here, he declared that there are two places in Jagannath Puri where love of Godhead is easily available: the temple of Tota Gopinath and this spot where Lord Nityananda danced in ecstasy with the children. Some years later, some years later, when Narottam Das Thakur came here on pilgrimage, one of his disciples, Seva Das, asked if he could remain and perform bhajan. Sometime later, Narottam ordered that Radhakanta be sent here to be worshipped by Seva Das. The sadhu felt silent, and I felt it was the right time to ask my question. Maharaj, I said, after the departure of Lord Chaitanya, Radhakanta was installed by Narottam Das Thakur at the famous Kheturi festival in Bengal, along with five other deities. One was golden deity of Lord Chaitanya, who is now being worshipped in a village north of Kolkata. Among the other four deities of Krishna, one Rajamohan is Hi, Vishnu, sorry. Uh, okay. Uh, I'll start this para again. Maharaj, I said, after the departure of Lord Chaitanya, Radhakanta was installed by Narottam Das Thakur at the famous Kheturi festival in Bengal, along with five other deities. One was one was golden deity of Lord Chaitanya, who is now being worshipped in a village north of Calcutta. Among the other four deities of Krishna, one Rajamohan is presently being worshipped in Vrindavan. Do you know where the other three deities are? The sadhu looked surprised. You know these things? He said. I have been trying to find these deities for 20 years, I replied. Then I chanted one of my favorite mantras with the names of all six deities. Gaurang, Gauranga Vallabhi Kanta, Sri Krishna Vrajamohan, Radha Raman He Radhe, Radha Kanta Namostate. The sadhu's eye opened wide. I know where they are, he said softly. I could not believe my ears. Maharaj, I said, please tell us where they can be found. He began slowly, as you stated, he said. Gauranga is being worshipped in Bengal at the ancestral home of Ganga Narayan Chakravarti, the chief disciple of Narottam Das Thakur. Vallabhikanta is being served in a temple in Dwarka, though I am not sure of his exact whereabouts. Sri Krishna was worshipped by a king in East Bengal for some time and later given to a Brahmin family. It would take more research to find where he is now. You mentioned that Rajamohan is worshipped in Vrindavan. I've heard that Radha Raman is also being served somewhere there as well. And of course, Radhakanta is here, he said. You may be surprised to learn that out of the six deities that Narottam installed, Radhakanta was personally worshipped by him for the of his life, remainder of his life. I sat there stunned. In 1 minute, 20 years of research has had borne fruit. After relishing the moment, we all thanked the sadhu profusely, paid our obeisances, and left. We walked out of the temple and started down the street. Maharaj, Madhvanand said, I have another amazing place to take the devotees. I shook my head. What could be more amazing than what we just experienced? I said. Madhvananda smiled. A long, lost, lost temple, he said. It was discovered not long ago, right in the heart of Jagannath Puri. A lost temple? I said. How could a temple be lost in the middle of Jagannath Puri? As we walked along, Madhvanand told the story to me. 500 years ago, he began, and Lord Chaitanya was living in Puri. He stayed at the house of the devotee Kashi Mishra. That house, which is still standing later, became the famous Gambhira temple, where Kashi Mishra's personal deities of Radhakanta were worshipped. Because of the strictness of the culture at that time, women were not allowed to render personal service to the temple deities. But Kashi Mishra's wife had a strong desire to serve the Lord in his deity form. So her husband arranged a beautiful set of Radha Krishna deities for her to worship in her very own personal temple, which he had built. Throughout most of her life, she served those deities with great devotion. Unfortunately, as centuries passed, that small temple was abandoned and fell into disrepair. How could a sacred temple be abandoned? I said. Madhvanand shook his head. Kali Yuga, he said. 2 years ago, he continued, a pujari at Gambhira temple had a dream in which the deities of Kashi Mishra's wife appeared to him. We are standing under water, they said. We are surrounded by garbage and filth behind a wall near Gambhira temple. Please come and rescue us. The pujari awoke with a start. He gathered some friends he gathered some friends and tools, and they ran to the place indicated by the deities. It was a place where people had been throwing their garbage over a wall into a neglected jungle area for years. They climbed up the wall and over a huge pile of refuge. They and they spotted an area thick with trees and vines. They chopped away and discovered the ruins of a small temple. When they forced open the door, a flood of water poured out. When they walked in, they were stunned to see large deities of Radha and Krishna standing on the altar. It took weeks to restore the deities to their original beauty. After the area was cleaned nicely and the temple rebuilt, the worship of Radha and Krishna began again. That's another amazing story, I said. I thought things like that will only happen in previous ages. I can't wait to see those deities. And I'd really love to meet that Pujari. Just as I spoke, we reached the old temple on the edge of a sprawling neighborhood. I walked in, quickly paid my obeisances to the deities, and stood before them reverentially, appreciating their beauty and their pastime of revealing themselves to the world again. As the de- as as the devotees sat down to hear Madhvananda relate the pastime, I walked behind the temple with Gaura Haridas to chant Gayatri mantra in a quiet place. We were accompanied by a young we were accompanied by a young man, a resident of Puri, who was helping us with translations that day. Just as we had finished Gayatri, I saw an old man come out of a room in a small building adjacent to the temple. I was immediately attracted by his saintly appearance, and I spontaneously offered obeisances to him. I got up and started walking towards him. Who is this blissful sadhu? I said to our translator. He is obviously old, but appears youthful by his effulgent cou- uh, countenance. The translator stood with palms joined, looking at the sadhu. This is the pujari who had the dream about the deities in the temple, he said. Out of love for them, he now resides nearby. I could not believe our good fortune bowing before the sadhu. I asked him to put his hands on my head and bless me. Like all Vaishnavas, he, he was of a merciful nature. Smiling broadly, he put his two hands firmly on my head and said loudly, Harer Harer Nam eva kevalam, Kalau naste, eva gatir anyatha. In this age of quarrel and hypocrisy, the only means of deliverance is the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. There is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way. Brahad Naradiya Puran 3.8.126. I thanked him again and again. For the second time that morning, I found myself expressing deep gratitude to a saintly person. We paid our obeisances again and returned to our group of devotees. As the devotees sat spellbound, hearing Madhvananda's narration, I turned to Gaura Hari. Since we have already heard the story, I said, let's take our translator and wander around the neighborhood to see what we can see. We walked outside and turned down a narrow street. Um, our translator told us we were in an old part of town where the Brahmins from the main temple lived with their families. As we walked along, I was way struck by the antiquity of the surroundings. As we rounded a corner, we saw an old woman sitting on the porch of his house, eating prasadam from a small clay bowl on the ground. She was taking each bite slowly and with deep respect. That's a great photo, I said to Gaur Hari as I took out my camera and photographed her. Just then, a man who appeared to be in his late 60s came out of his house. Seeing us, he immediately smiled. He was dressed in a dhoti with a small chadar over his neck and his brahmana thread draped over his shoulder. That's my mother, he said. She's honoring Lord Jagannath's prasadam. He is one of the chief priests in the temple, our translator said softly. Every day he receives some prasadam that has been offered to Lord Jagannath on a special golden plate. The prasadam is prepared separately and by the best cooks in the temple. The priest came over to speak to us. Are you Vaishnavs? He said. Yes, Maharaj, I replied. By the mercy of our spiritual masters, we are servants of the Lord. We have come to Jagannath Puri on Parikrama with a large group of devotees from the west. He stood for a moment observing us and then quietly turned and walked up into the porch where his mother was taking prasadam. He reached out, respectfully took some of the prasadam in his hand, and walked back to where we were standing. And he reached out and put some of the prasadam in our hands. Taken aback by his generosity, we stood there not knowing what to do next. He smiled again. Take prasadam, he said. Look at his mother, who continued to relish the prasadam on her plate. I put Lord Jagannath's prasadam in my mouth with as much devotion as I could muster. I've never tasted anything like this in my entire life, I said to Gaur Hari. It's heavenly. As the Brahmana went back to his duties, we found ourselves bowing down and once again thanking a sadhu for his kindness upon us. This is the mercy of the Holy Dham, I said to Gaur Hari as we walked back to meet our party. The sadhu who live here kindly share their good fortune with us. This is why we must visit such holy places as many times as we can during our lifetime. I agree, Gaur Hari said enthusiastically. Experiences like we are having today in Jagannath Puri, I said, give me faith that one day I might even attain the rarest treasure of love of God. As we walked down the road, I remembered a beautiful verse. Idam sena bha, idam sena bhagyam bhavati sulabham yena yuvayos chattapi asya premana स्फुरति nahi सुप, सुप्तव अपि मम पदर्थे स्मिन् युष्मद् व्रजम् निवासेन जनितस् तथापि असबन्ध परिवृद्ध वरौ मां दराध दराध्यति. The splendor of pure love, which makes the good fortune of direct service to you easy to obtain, is not mine, even in dreams. Still, O king and queen, simply living in your Vraja gives me great hope. Utkali Vallari, verse 64. We've met up with our Parikrama group and started back in the direction where we were staying. When we reached Tapa Rishi Road, not far from our destination, I took the devotees to the temple of Jagadanand Pandit, another important associate of Lord Chaitanya. In the temple, I spoke to the devotees. Jagadanand Pandit wrote a book called Prema Vivarta, in which he analyzes the subject matter of divine love in great detail. Kaviraj Goswami says in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Jaganandera Prema Vivarta Suniye Jana Prem Premera Swarupa Jane Paya Prema Dhana. Anyone who hears about the Lord, about the loving exchanges between Jagananda Pandit and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, or who reads Jagadanand's book Prema Vivarta can understand what love is. Moreover, he achieves ecstatic love of Krishna. It's something we hope to achieve in the future, I said with a smile. After we are successful in conquering over our material desires, now let's proceed back to our ashram. I kept it short. I could see the devotees were getting tired. As we were leaving the temple, I looked across the road and saw the famous temple of Brahmananda Bharati Maharaj, another great associate of Lord Chaitanya. The temple was undergoing renovation and I was curious to see the work. So I took the hand of my disciple Narottam Das Thakur Das, and we dug under the scaffolding, and went inside. The temple is 500 years old and looks every bit of its antiquity. There were no windows, no lighting inside, but with the sun filtering through the entrance, we could see very beautiful deities of Radha and Krishna on the altar. These were the personal deities of Brahmananda Bharati Maharaj, said a pujari coming in from behind us. With the help of several ISKCON devotees, we are renovating the temple to its original glory. Let me show you the Shalagram Shila that have been worshipped here since the time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He went onto the altar, picked up a wooden box full of shilas, and brought them forward right before our eyes. They are very beautiful, I said. Suddenly, I noticed a small black stone with a beautiful white line circling around it several times. That's a Shiva Lingam, Lord Shiva himself. I whispered to Narottam Das. Previously, Sadhu worshipped Shiva in that form. Nowadays, you only see such lingams in temples. They are very rare. I paused for a moment. I always longed to have one. I said, to complete the worship on my altar. But why would we, as devotee of Krishna, worship Lord Shiva? Narottam asked. Shastra says he is the greatest Vaishnava. I replied. And only by the mercy of Vaishnavas we can serve the Supreme Lord. I quoted Bhakti Ratnakara. Srimad, Go- Srimad Gopishwaram Vande Shankaram Karunamayam Kalesha Haram Devam Vrindaranya Ratipadam. I offer my respectful obeisances to Gopeshwara, who is Lord Shiva himself. He is very merciful, removes all troubles, and grants spiritual love in Vrindavan. Bhakti Ratnakara 5.3741. I look longingly at the Shila, but I won't ask for it. I thought maybe another time. The pujari probably would not give him to me anyway. I thanked the pujari for the special darshan and turned to Narottam. Let's go, I said. The front entrance was closed, so I walked carefully through the darkness towards the door. When I found the handle, I turned it and walked out into the bright sunshine. I gathered the devotees and spoke for some time about Brahmananda Bharati Maharaj and then announced that we would continue back to our ashram. Suddenly I realized Narottam was not there. Where's Narottam? I asked the devotees. Just at that moment he appeared. Sorry, I'm late, Guru Maharaj, he said. He paused. But I don't think you will mind. He continued. But I have something very special for you. He put the beautiful Shivalingam in my hand. Narottam, I said, how did you get him? It was simple, he replied. I told that Pujari that it was you and some of your disciples who have been the main contributors in renovating the temple over the years. When he heard that, he gave the Shala with gratitude and love. That night at the ashram, I remembered something said by Srila Prabhupada's disciple Madhvananda Das in an interview with Yadubara Das. He was talking about Srila Prabhupada's 1971 Parikrama of Vrindavan with his Western disciples. When we arrived in Vrindavan, I remember walking into Prabhupada's room and offering my obeisances. I said, Prabhupada, what should we do now? He looked down at me and said, just wander. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Jai Ho. Thank you so much, Mataji, for reading that diary chapter so wonderfully. Uh, I don't know what to say. I'm just trying to soak in what I have just heard. Both the diary chapters were just beyond what I had thought. So I hope they captured the mood, and devotees are very enthused to visit the dham after reading the chapters. It's very evident that how Srila Gurudev so wonderfully uh, articulates and writes these diaries for us. Just by reading his diaries, um, we can perfect our lives, as Rupa Goswami says, that utsaha nishchaya dhairya tat tat karma pravartana sangat tyagat sato vritti. I don't know if I'm mixing up the shlokas. Is that right?
Yes, Prabhu.
Sangatyagat
Sadguru
sato
Bhakti.
vritti sadgvid bhakti prasiddhati. So just by reading Gurudev's chapters, we get so much utsaha, enthusiasm, and even although the goal of our lives, that is Krishna Prem or Golok Vrindavan, is so far away, we know that we get dhairya, or we get patience, that okay, at least I am one step ahead, or at least I'm with Gurudev, and I know that somehow Gurudev will drag me towards Golok Vrindavan. So um, today morning I was hearing a lecture of Gurudev recently, which Gurudev gave in Krishna Balram Mandir, and Gurudev was saying that as Vaishnavas, we are um, we should always have that consciousness that everyone is um, our brother and our sister, in the sense that Krishna, we all are part and parcel of Krishna, and we all are God brothers and God sisters. So um, by coming to Kartik Parikrama, we should, of course, we are coming to Kartik Parikrama to get nourishment ourselves, but we are also coming to Kartik Parikrama to make sure others who are attending the Kartik Parikrama have a wonderful experience. So Gurudev has a very wonderful lecture. Uh, I'll share it in the group if devotees want to hear. And the title of that lecture is "It's Not About Me, It's About You." So whenever I think about Kartik Parikrama, or I think about our God family, I always think it's not about you, Panchajanya, but it's about Gurudev. It's about the God family. So yes, I don't think so. I have much to say. Kartik Parikrama is just one day ahead. Day after tomorrow, the Parikrama is starting. Many devotees are reaching the Dham. Many devotees are aspiring to reach to the Dham in just a few days. So I just pray intensely at the lotus feet of Shri Shri Radha Madhav, Ashtasakhi, Panchatattva, Narsimhadev, Prahlad Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada, all the acharyas whose samadhis are there in Sridham Mayapur, that may all of us come and enter the Dham in the right consciousness, as Gurudev always says, before coming to Dham, at the boundary of Mayapur, you should get down and you should just roll yourself in the dust of the Dham, begging to seek permission to the deities and to the Lord to enter the Dham in the right consciousness. And as Gurudev said, we should, of course, as Mayapur and Vrindavan are not different, before entering the Dham, we should ask permission from five personalities, that is Mahadev, Vraj Dhuli, or we can say Mayapur Dhuli, and Yamuna, Giri Govardhan, and Vrinda Devi. So all these personalities are very merciful. They can grant us the entrance into the Dham, although we are not qualified to enter the Dham. It is like Gurudev is giving us the invitation on behalf of Srila Prabhupada to enter the Dham, and only by the mercy of Srila Gurudev and the will of our seniors are we able to enter the Dham for such a duration. So I would just request all the devotees present over here to bless me as well, that I can also enter the Dham and serve all of you in the right consciousness, in the right mood, with the entire enthusiasm which I can gather. And yeah, thank you so much for attending this call. It is 9:30. If anyone wants to share anything, please feel free to do so. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Namarasta Prabhu.
Mataji is raising hand.
Devajit Prabhu, you are saying something?
Mataji is raising hand.
Yeah, Gopi Mandala Mataji, please go ahead.
Thank you, Pradeep. Uh, Pradeep, just maybe a kiddish realization, but just wanted to share. Um, when actually I first time did Parikrama, and after that, when seniors joined me to the group of troopers, and when we started, reading the diary chapters, hearing all these names of seniors who actually, like these are these are all hero kind of feel to me actually. Narottam Praji, without even, uh, exp Gurudev didn't express what he's feeling, what or that Shridlingam he want. But Narottam Praji just like he heard Srila Gurudev's desire, and that's how he actually did it. So like it's not new. This chapter is not new for many of us, but every time when we hear, we get that desire that okay, in this parikrama, in this meet, we're gonna meet each and every senior and those heroes who actually did something for our Shila Gurudev, something big, and made our Shila Gurudev so happy. So I feel like every Kartik parikrama, um, there are so many, desires to actually meet each and everyone who served Shila Gurudev so closely, and to hear more from them, more glories, more pastimes. And yeah, just waiting because of this chapter. Now I'm just waiting those, small, small magic tricks by Narottam Praji in our group. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Gopi Mandala Mataji. Yeah, indeed, there are many senior disciples of Gurudev whom we can take inspiration from, and from them we can understand how we can please our spiritual master. And Shanti Parayan Prabhu, as well as Madhvanand Prabhu, who was mentioned in this diary chapter by Gurudev, who is a disciple of Gaur Govinda Maharaj. He and his good wife, they both are going to be there for the parikrama for the entire month. And we have Charu Gopinath Prabhu, if I'm not wrong, who is also going to guide us through Sridham Mayapur. So, lot of nectar. uh, Devotees, please do come for the parikrama. And yeah, I guess if anyone does not have anything to say, we can conclude the meeting over here. Okay. वंशाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यः च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनंत कोटि वैष्णववृंद की जय। शिल प्रभुपाद की जय। शिल गुरुदेव की जय। All glories to my illustrious God family. Yeah, so